All right, so now we're going to find solutions. So what we're going to be given is an equation, and we want to find solutions to our equation. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that hopefully you remember from class, or you're watching this prior to me going over. First, in order to find 4 solutions, you need to make a table, okay? You have your domain and you have your range, your x and your y value. For your x value, because I'm not dealing with any fractions here, you're going to put a 1 underneath here, and you're going to remember something that's really important. Slope tells us what a line is doing. It tells us if a line is increasing, or if it's a positive slope, or if it's a negative slope, if it's steep, or if it's not steep, okay? This is a positive number. This is also what we refer to as the coefficient. This is also the slope. It's 4. In order to find slope, it's the change in y over the change in x, okay? So this slope is 4 over 1. So what this tells me is I need to change my x values by 1, and I need to change my y values by 4. So it doesn't matter what you start with, just make sure your x increases properly. So we could go 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. And then I can say, who starts with 0? This value does. This value is called your y-intercept. That is your beginning value. That's your beginning. And what we also call that is our b, okay? And we'll get to that formula and why it's called a b. But if it's my y-intercept, that means when I have a line, 1, 2, 3, that line is going to cross through at 3, right there. When x is 0, y will be 3. So that 3 will go right here. Then you're going to notice that your x values are changing by 1, which is what we set up here, and your y values, those are going to change by 4. So I'm going to go up 4 from 3 and get 7, and then up 4 more, and then up 4 more. And there's our chart, okay? Now that's you understanding what this is. This is in a formula called slope-intercept form. As long as y is isolated and it's followed by a coefficient x plus a constant, and we'll talk more about that in a few, I can set my table up like this. Otherwise, I have to do something completely different, which is this. I create a chart, I pick my values, I'm substituting 0 in. 4 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. Didn't I tell you? When x is 0, you would know the y-intercept. It's right here. Do it again. Plug 1 in, solve, and get 7. Plug 2 in, solve, and get 11, and so forth. And those give you your points as well. So that's where you are required to do a little more math. But if you look at it, you can see this is changing by 4. See, it's going up by 4. And this is changing by 1. It's going up by 1. And if you look at this, that's where that information is coming from. The change in y over the change in x. And this is my beginning point with 0. All right, so let's start that again. So it's in the proper form that I want, which is called slope-intercept form. Your slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, okay? So I would do this. I can see my slope is 2. I put it over 1, and I remember slope is equal to the change in y. Remember, change in y, you have to rise before you run, and we'll get into that some more, is 2 over 1. I'm going to go ahead and make my table, and I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3. If I plugged 0 in here, I would do 2 times 0 is 0, plus negative 4 is negative 4. But I already knew that this was my beginning. And then I begin when x is 0, I know my y-intercept. I already know that my x is going up by 1. It's right there because it's a change in x. And now I know that this is going to change by 2. So I go up 2 from -4 and I'll be at -2. Go up 2, I'll be at 0. Go up 2 and I'll be at 2. Or you can substitute these numbers in. 2 times 3, which is x, plus -4 is equal to 2. 2 times 2 is 4, plus -4 is equal to 0. So you could substitute if you don't understand what I'm saying here yet. This is just the same kind of thing. The only difference is this equation is in what's called standard form. This is standard form. I don't like working in standard form. So standard form is ax plus capital B, y equals c. That's called standard form. When I'm finding 4 solutions, I like it in what I call slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. In slope-intercept form is when it's y equals mx plus b. That way I know how to change my y and x based on my m, and I know my beginning, b. So first of all, I don't need these zeros, so I'm going to cross them all out. Second, I need to solve for y. So I'm going to add a -48x to both sides. And I'm going to end up with 24y is equal to -48x plus 216, like that. Then I'm going to divide everything by 24 because remember, I have to get y by itself. That's what's most important. This cancels out and I'm left with y is equal to -2x, and then you're going to do 216 divided by 24, which is 9, plus 9. Now I have my formula. I have it in mx plus b. Remember, m is your slope. That's your key. Hello. That's your change in y over your change in x. That tells me how to change my table. Remember, this is my y-intercept. That's my beginning. That's my constant right there. So when I make my table, x, y, if I have 0, I know 9 goes right here. Now remember, this is over 1. So I know my x is changing by 1 and my y this time is changing by a -2. So when I have 1 right there, I go down 2. I have 2 here, I go down 2. I have 3 here, I go down 2. I have 4 here, I go down 2. And that's good, okay? So again, going back up. Standard form is what this was in. Prefer not to find my 4 solutions in standard form. I prefer to find them in slope-intercept form, which is this formula right here. That's what I use to find my 4 solution because it's just a lot easier. Once I get it in this form, I know how to change my y and my x based on my coefficient, which is the numerical value next to x, okay? I know where to begin with 0 because that's right here. This is my beginning. And then they're showing you the long way of doing it. And then we do the same thing for that one. Okay, so now we're going to learn to graph it. Well, in order to graph it, I have to have my ordered pairs. So let's get our x and y on. Let's go 0, 1, 2, 3. First question, where's your beginning? Right, -3, right there. What's your x changing by? 1. What's your y changing by? Well, what's the number next to x? Right, if there's nothing there, it's a 1. So it's going up 1. It's going up 1. It's going up 1. There you go. So they both were changing by 1. And then when you graph it, you're going to see what you have is a linear line because that's what we're creating. Everything that we're creating here is linear lines. It's a positive linear line because if you wrote your name on it, it goes up the hill. So it's a positive linear line. And how do I know it's positive? because the number before x is positive, okay? Remember, this just tells you where to start. -3 is where you start, right here. And then from that point, you rise up 1, run over 1. What it does is it creates a stairway. So let me show you. So 1 over 1 is your slope. So m is equal to 1 over 1. Remember I said to you that's the change in y over the change in x. That's also called the rise, because the y rises over the run. So it tells you in this one to rise up 1 from the starting point, rise up 1, run over 1, rise up 1, run over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, and it creates these stairs because that's how we build slope. It's very easy to do. Let's do it again, but let's rewrite this to be y equals -1x plus 5. Remember, I prefer it to be an m slope x plus y-intercept. Slope being first, so I needed to do this and bring it in the front. I need to make it into a fraction because remember, slope is m. All of that is equal to the change in y over the change in x, which is equal to rise over run. Don't forget all that. So in this case, it's -1 over 1. So here's my x, here's my y. Start at 0. Who starts with 0? 5. That's your beginning. That's your y-intercept. Then if you go right here, it tells you to change your x values by 1. And this tells you to go down 1. Okay, so remember, -1 over 1. Change y over change x. Don't forget. So go down 1, down 1, down 1. Isn't that easy? The hardest part is to remember that the y goes over the x. And then it's a linear line. I knew it was going to be a negative linear line. Let me erase. Because it was a negative slope. See, it's negative. So I knew if I wrote my name, it goes down the hill. Okay? And our beginning point was at 5, right? And -1 over 1 is rise over run. So that means rise down 1 because it's negative, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. And there's our stairs. It's a pretty steep slope. And that's 8.2. Good luck.